Welcome into another edition of Mix in a Water Monday, everybody. Joining me today is former Gamecocks offensive lineman Mason Zandi. And Mason, a perfect time to have you on the program because what South Carolina was able to accomplish the other night, especially on the ground, give credit to Marshawn Lloyd, give credit to the running backs, but it had to have been great just to be able to see the O-line be able to make some of those holes up front.
Yeah, finally we put it together. I actually wasn't able to attend in person, but me and the old lady, we watched the game back at the house, and I actually rewatched it, and just seeing them push people around and seeing Marshawn Lloyd fulfill his potential. He obviously went out last year with the ACL, came back in this year, set career highs in rushing record. I think he rushed for 3 touchdowns. That's got to feel good for the big fellas up front.
Yeah, 285 yards rushing last night as a team after only compiling, I believe it was 211 through the first 3 games. I understand it's Charlotte, but as someone that has played in games like that, especially at USC, can you give people at least a little insight as to what that can do from a confidence standpoint, especially where the offense was maybe, right? I'm not saying that they have no flaws right now, but they were in a spot probably where they needed to be able to build off some confidence. And a game like that last night can certainly do that. Do you feel that way, though, especially after a game like Charlotte, despite the fact that, okay, not one of the better defenses in the country?
Right, Mike, you actually took the word right out of my mouth, is confidence. It's not a quantifiable stat we can keep like rushing yards, but when you've gone against an Arkansas, which is a top 25 team, you've gone against Georgia, which is my favorite to win the national title this year, and with a defensive front that's as talented as they are, confidence goes a long way. When you're able to play against somebody and physically move somebody against their will and see the tangible results from that, it goes a very long way. And you're going to have an extra skip in your step come Monday morning in practice. The film session isn't so bad. And that bad play syncs up against Georgia, and you're sinking down in your chair like, oh, please, God, let's not watch this one more time. But instead, you're excited because you had some pancake blocks, and your running back feels like an All-American.
And I know I'm going to pick on the O-line a little bit here because you're a former offensive lineman, and I've said this before. The issues with this offense has not just been strictly on the O-line as much as people on the outside want to say that. So I bring that up, Mason, because when you do have a game like this from a confidence standpoint, you're running the football. I think some people want to be like, all right, well, what does that mean for the passing game? Because you might not be able to run the football like that against a Kentucky or Tennessee, Florida, whoever the case may be. How much can being able to run the football in the manner in which they did the other night, how much can that help the passing game? Because if you're able to get that confidence from a run block standpoint, now, okay, want to be able to do the same from a passing standpoint, but can that make a difference? Because I think so many people saw the run blocking last night, and they still have their concerns about passing because South Carolina really didn't need to last night because it wasn't the game plan.
No, and it wasn't, but the point to take away from it is if you can successfully run the ball or at least make it a threat, especially from the quarterback position, I think we need to utilize Spencer Rattler in the run game a little bit more than we have in the past. Last night we didn't need to, but in the future we're definitely going to have to. If you can successfully run the ball, have the threat of a running quarterback, you can then, I don't want to say dumb down, but in reality you can dumb down the passing game, give him 1 or 2 reads and tell him to take off. It just makes the offense much more simpler. You're not having to pick up a bunch of different blitzes from the defense. It's just downhill, and that's what offensive linemen want to do. And if I was an offensive line coach, I don't want a guy that doesn't want to run block. So running the ball is going to set up the pass. I mean, it's all the new offenses that are out there, the air raid, whatever it is. At the end of the day, you look at the national championship games, you look at the Super Bowl games, you look at all the state title games if you want to go to a high school level. Who's winning them? People that can run the ball and play defense. And that's the moral of the story. So we got to continue to run the ball, continue to build confidence, reinstill the fact that the SEC is still a run-heavy conference, and rely on the big guys up front. There's 5 of them, and there's 6 of the rest of the guys. So you tell me who you need to make confident the most.
Going to flip things over to the defensive side of the ball. They have their areas they need to be able to fix. I feel like more than anything, injuries are starting to catch up on this team, right? I mean, you had another two guys out last night from a starting standpoint, but you already knew you're going to miss, Jordan Strawn. You're going to miss Mo Kaba for the year, so you're down 4 starters right there. Nick Amani Warrior's come in. He's done a tremendous job as a true freshman. When you have a guy like that, like Nick, that's going out there as a true freshman, Mason, and I know the offensive lineman, it's a unique position, but in terms of just earning respect, whether it be O-line, whether it be at safety, when you see a freshman go out there and has gone up against Arkansas on the road for his first career started against Georgia, and now it looks like he's going to be the starter after at least playing last night and doing another tremendous job. What is that like from an upperclassman standpoint when you see one of those younger guys go out there and then he's able to continue to put it together week in and week out?
When you're looking at freshmen, I remember my redshirt junior, redshirt senior year, you're looking at freshman, sophomore that come in the door. You don't really have an expectation. The SEC is a monster in itself, and it's a mini NFL. I think many people have said that before. But when you have a guy that can come in, that's learned the defense, it's one thing to pick up the defenses and the different offenses in the classroom, but then they go on the field, adjust yourself to the speed, be able to pick up on your keys, read the offense, and actually make plays. You start walking in that locker room, you're like, that freshman's walking in, his chest a little bit more poked out. He might be joking around with the guys a little bit more, but from an upperclassman's perspective, it's like, all right, well, this guy's a dude. He can play. Let's get him in the game some more and try to win some ball games.
Turnovers. I know that when you hear that word from an offensive standpoint, you hate it. But from a defensive standpoint, this is what South Carolina needed to do last night. They need to be able to get out of that funk. They need to be able to create some turnovers, and they were able to do that last night. Do you ever sense, especially when you played on the offensive side of the ball, but I mean, it could be just when you were watching the defense out there and your teammates, do you sense that these turnovers come in bunches, right? I mean, as soon as you're able to get one, it just feels like another's going to start happening, and then guys around start looking around, be like, it just feels like it's inevitable that's just going to happen again. I feel like that's what we saw last night. Do you feel like that is the case when you're talking about turnovers?
Yeah, I think last night we saw, 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions on 3 consecutive drives, and it just felt like, when it rains, it pours. But, we play a team sport, but as players, you want individual attention. You want the individual accolades. So you want to be that guy that's toting the ball into the end zone because you just picked it off or recovered a fumble. And that I don't want to call it attention, but that spotlight, it does something for players. And once they get a taste of it, they want more of it. And it's no mystery how we win football games. You block, tackle, and get the ball off the opponent's hand. So once we start putting that together, better things are to come.
Let's look ahead now. South Carolina State this week. Again, another opponent that you should be able to beat. You were able to do a lot of good things against Charlotte. How do you carry that momentum over from this week into next so that, and more importantly, gain even more confidence so that when you head back into conference play a week from next week, when you go down to Kentucky, that you're in a better spot in comparison to where this team was before Saturday night this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you want to go into that game, play quarter one, and you want to mush those guys. You want to hang 35, 45, 50 points in the first half. Let these young guys get in there, get a bunch of reps. Let the older guys, the starters, get some rest. I mean, the key is South Carolina State. I'm not knocking them, but realistically, you should beat them, and you should beat the brakes off of them. If you don't, we got bigger problems. Kentucky's not even a question if we can't beat SC State. So you want those guys to get in, get rep. The young guys get in, get reps. Let's get healthy. Let's do what we do best, and continue to find that identity within the offense, especially. I saw in the second half of last night's game, the defense was a little bit on their heels in the beginning. They kind of played safe. And then you saw the second half, they started sending blitzes, and they started sending linebackers, and the corners are coming off the edge, and there was guys flying all over the place. Wow, it's a mystery. We applied pressure to a quarterback and got 3 picks. It's not science. It's simple football.
How much can you take away from last week's game, though, against Charlotte? Because I know there's going to be people out there, and I know we've brought it up a couple times, against a team that you should be able to beat, and they did a lot of good things. The fact that when the starters are out on the field from an offensive standpoint, they scored every single time. I know there's going to be some people that want to look at it. They're going to be skeptical about it, and I understand that. But Mason is someone that, again, has played in these games before against some of these opponents who you should be able to beat. What would you tell them on the outside?
I would tell them that if you have an opponent on the schedule, you might as well whip their ass. There's no matter who they are, or what team or city they came from. You got an opportunity to whip somebody, you do it. And like I said before, confidence isn't tangible. It's not a stat sheet. It's not there. But if you go out and score every single time and you rush for a bunch of yards, I think we were averaging like 60 yards a game, something not very good. And then you go out and rush for over 200. That does something for the team, and take that for what it is. No, we didn't go out and beat Kentucky, or no, we didn't go out and beat Alabama, but we beat a team that's in our schedule. Mm-hmm. We have to beat them, and it's going to give us confidence to beat the next one, and hopefully we can go to Kentucky and do something great.
He's Mason Zandi. This has been Mixing a Water Monday. Mason, I know you got a little something else over there if you want to go mix that in before we end things. Be sure to check us out every Monday with the former Gamecock player as we recap the game that was and take a look ahead to the upcoming matchup for South Carolina. Mason, appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Mike.